मतलब इस वीडियो की।
चलो कर लेते हैं.
थैंक यू
So
सर।
when we talk about moisture, the role of humidity that becomes quite important. And the humidity can be defined as concentration of water vapor in air. And it is also expressed as this is the ratio between mass of water in grams to volume of air in meter cube, and it is expressed in gram per meter cube. To understand the concept of relative humidity, the absolute humidity is quite important, because without understanding absolute humidity, we can't understand the relative humidity. So absolute humidity is the amount of water vapor which are present in a unit volume of air at given temperature. So it is expressed as HA, that is the mass of water in gram divided by volume of chamber, which has 1 meter uh, length, width, and height, meter cube. So it is gram per meter cube. Now the concept of absolute humidity, which can be further explained here. We have considered a chamber which has means m meter length, m meter width, m meter height. So its volume is V, and it is a meter cube, means 1 into 1 into 1 meter cube. So it is 1 meter cube, and x gram of water vapor are present inside this chamber. Or you can say the water is present in the form of water vapor, and the quantity of that water vapor or water is x gram, and the volume is V. So x upon V, this is the absolute humidity inside that chamber. Now, what we did, we inject some more water in the form of water vapor inside the same chamber. So suppose y gram of water is further injected, means x was present already there, and we injected y gram of water in the form of water vapor. Then what was happened there? Uh, x plus y gram of water is now present here, and volume is constant. So x plus y divided by v. So this is, you can say, your new absolute humidity after injecting y gram of water. So it is expressed as HA1. So HA1, that will be greater than HA, because you have injected more water inside the chamber. Now there is a state. Suppose you continue to inject the water vapor inside the chamber, then there will be a point where the water droplets start to condense itself. It means that saturation level has been achieved, and now chamber is not able to hold any fraction of water further. So now that is you called as the X maximum, means maximum amount of water in the form of water vapor you have injected inside the chamber, and the total amount of water vapor now that can be expressed as X maximum divided by volume. So this is called as the saturated humidity. Saturated because your chamber has been saturated, and there is no possibility of further injection or further holding of any water vapor by the air which is present inside that chamber. So now x2 gram of water is further injected. There is no mean. So now you can calculate the relative humidity. What is this relative humidity? Relative humidity is the ratio between absolute humidity HA divided by saturated humidity HS multiplied by 100. So in this way, you can calculate the relative humidity in any environment, in any chamber, or in any room or hall or factory, whatever it is. Now come on that point. When you will inject the water inside a material, what will happen? Textile material absorb the water, and textile material may lose the water. So two type of phenomena will take place when a textile material will come in the contact of a humid environment. So dynamic equilibrium occurs when number of water molecules evaporating from the specimen in a given time becomes equal to the number of condensing molecule and being absorbed. This is very important part because in this picture I have mentioned the dynamic equilibrium. What is this dynamic equilibrium? Water molecule evaporating from the specimen means coming out, evaporating from the specimen in a given time becomes equal to the number of condensing molecule and being absorbed. Means material is absorbing the water molecule and at the same time evaporating the molecule from the same type of material, same material. So that is called as the dynamic equilibrium. When this dynamic equilibrium becomes important, suppose you are going to design a dress for a player or for a you can say a person who is working out at high energy level. So whatever sweating that will come from body, that should immediately come out. If it is achieve the dynamic equilibrium, it means if further sweating will be there, if further humidity will enhance, then the person will start to feel uncomfortable. So in this way, whatever design you will fabric or dress, you will design for high performance sports. You have to be careful to study all these type of parameters and functionalities. The standard testing condition. What are the standard testing condition in our country or in other countries? Particularly in cold countries, the temperature that maintains 20 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade and this relative humidity is 60%. But in tropical and subtropical countries, temperature remains 27 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade and RH is 65% relative humidity. Now, moisture regain and moisture content. Suppose D gram of oven dry mass of textile material absorbs W gram of water at given temperature and relative humidity. What is the oven dry weight of material? D gram. And this D gram mass of oven dry material is absorbing W gram of water. So in that case, the moisture regain R, that will be W divided by D into 100. Suppose 10 gram of dry material absorbs 2 gram of water, then what will be the moisture regain of that material? So 2 divided by 10 into 100. So that will be 20%. But moisture content is different. Now what will be moisture content for the same? Suppose 10 gram of material absorb 2 gram of water, then moisture content will be 2 divided by 10 plus 2 into 100. So 2 divided by 12 into 100. So 1 upon 6 into 100. So 100 divided by 6. Okay, so moisture content that will remain always less than moisture regain because the denominator is bigger one than a denominator which is used in moisture regain. So there is a very simple way to calculate the moisture content by using moisture regain, or if you know the moisture regain, you can calculate moisture content easily. Suppose you have moisture content, moisture regain, sorry, moisture content. You want to calculate moisture regain. So moisture regain R equal to M upon 1 minus M upon 100. You can directly calculate the moisture regain. And if you have regain, then you can calculate moisture content. How will you calculate it? And what is the concept behind it? So come on, basic definition of again moisture regain. R equal to W upon D into 100. And M equal to 100 into W upon D plus W. So here you can replace this D plus, sorry, you can take this D common from denominator. So D plus W, yani 1 plus W upon D, and you divide the numerator by D also, 100 into W upon D. So 100 into W upon D equal to R, and in denominator it will come 1 plus W upon D. So R upon 1 plus W upon D, that you can write in terms of R upon 100. So in this way, M equal to R upon 1 plus R upon 100. In this way, you can calculate moisture content. So moisture content will come, that will be value will come again less, because here denominator is again bigger, 1 plus R upon 100. And the opposite one, bar 1 minus M upon 100. So here denominator will become small. Moisture regain measurement. How will you measure the moisture regain in different textile materials? So we have two methods. Two type of methods are present to measure the moisture regain. One is direct method, and another is indirect method. In case of direct method, the simplest one, that is the gravimetric method. Means you take the weight of oven dry material, then you allow for moisture absorption, then you take another weight and take the difference. So that will be the weight of water, and you have the oven dry weight. So W upon D, you can calculate moisture regain and moisture content, everything. Boiling method means, suppose you allow the material for absorbing water or some chemicals like acetone, they can also be used for this boiling method. In that, fibrous material are allowed to completely absorb the moisture, and then they put in those chemicals or those solvents, and then boiling takes place. Now, in case of indirect method, we have again two concepts. One is electrical conductivity based, another is chemical reaction based. Chemical reaction based, this is very typical method in which suppose moisture is there, so you have to consume a chemical which react with water molecules. So whatever consumption of chemical is there, on the basis of that we can calculate the amount of water which is present in that material. That's why it is called as the indirect method. Now, the most common and most popular method nowadays, which is used to measure the moisture presence in textile material, that is based on electrical conductivity based. Now, what is the concept of electrical conductivity? Because we know our maximum textile materials, they are not good conductor of electricity. They are bad conductor of electricity. That's why textile material has the property or has the problem of static charge generation. Now, I'm discussing here the electrical conductivity based indirect method of moisture regain. So suppose you have cotton or polyester or nylon, whatever fiber is there. If it is oven dry, if you will measure the electrical conductivity or electrical resistance of that material, on the basis of that you can standardize. Oven dry polyester will give this much of resistance. Oven dry cotton will give this much of resistance. But as these materials will absorb moisture, the electrical conductivity will enhance and electrical resistance will decrease. So what will you do, or what the instruments generally do? They normalize the value of electrical conductivity with the amount of moisture which is present in the material. So on the basis of mathematical modeling or calibration curve, these instruments or these techniques also gives very accurate value regarding the moisture management. So suppose you have cone, big cones. You want to measure how much moisture is there. Because if you will not measure the moisture, and suppose you purchase 10 ton of material and 5% moisture is there, then you are going to pay the price of water. If your yarn is 500 rupees per kg, and suppose you paid 300 kg for water, then it will be a huge loss for your company. So you have to be know it very well, that how much moisture allowance you have to cut when you are buyer, and suppose you are seller, then how much this moisture allowance you have to provide to your buyers. So that is not a fraud, or that is not any cheating. Basically, this is the regular practice, and it must be used from both the ends. So various sensors are available. On the basis of those sensors, the electrical conductivity of those materials is measured, and that compare with the oven dry conductivity of that material. And on the basis of that, the measurement of moisture is completed by means of such type of equipments. Here you can see the effect of moisture on textile strength, because in case of cotton, and in case of viscose, in case of silk, when these fibers they absorb moisture, what happens basically? Moisture absorption takes place only in amorphous state of the material, only in amorphous region of the material, because nothing can be penetrated inside the crystalline region of fibrous material. So how much crystallinity is there in that material? That is first point to decide the moisture again or moisture content of that material. Now, how the moisture absorption influence the tensile behavior and other properties of the material? Because as the water molecule will penetrate between the molecular chains, then what will happen? If the molecular chains are oriented well before the penetration of moisture again, this water molecule, and due to the presence of water molecule, the degree of orientation will decrease. But if the molecular chains are not oriented and water molecule enter in those regions, due to the presence of water molecule, if degree of orientation enhance up to some extent, then those type of fiber will gain the strength. And the fiber which has already good orientation, and due to water molecule, they lose the orientation, the tensile strength of those type of fiber decreases after moisture absorption. So viscose and silk, these two fibers, they decreases their tensile strength after moisture absorption. Cotton, that is the, you can say, most important fiber. Cotton gains strength after moisture absorption. What is the reason? If you will see the structure of cotton fiber, you will find the cotton has fringe fibrillar structure. Due to this fringe fibrillar structure, fibrils are light like that. When the water molecules comes in amorphous region, what happens? These molecular chains get like that, in this way. So degree of orientation or the alignment of molecular chains along the fiber axis, that increases after moisture absorption in case of cotton, and which becomes the main reason of textile strength enhancement in case of cotton. In case of silk and viscose, the reverse process takes place, because silk is also just like a wet spun fiber that is very close to viscose, right? Coagulation takes place in case of viscose when fiber comes in coagulation bath. In case of silk, when this protein extruded out from the glands which are present on silkworm head, when those glands secretes the protein and it comes in environment, the coagulation or solidification takes place. At the same time, the molecular chains also get oriented along the fiber axis. That's why the silk is a very strong fiber. If you will compare with the other cellulosic fiber and other synthetic fibers also. When you will compare the strength of silk fiber than steel fiber, you will find silk is stronger than steel. Then you have to find out the reason why this silk fiber is stronger than steel. How will you prove it? Suppose somebody will say the tensile strength of a steel fiber is 20 grams per denier, and tensile strength of if you will compare the tensile strength in terms of grams per denier, you will get a clear cut division, and you will get higher value in case of silk, because silk has very low density in comparison of steel. Steel has density 7.5, something like that, and silk has 1.32. So linear density, when we divide by linear density, the tensile strength will reduce in case of steel. Steel fiber is not known for its strength. Steel fiber is known for its electrical conductivity. Now, torsional rigidity. Torsional rigidity is another very important criteria for fibers to measure. Why this torsional rigidity is important? The torsion means you want to twist the fiber along the fiber axis. So during fiber yarn manufacturing, yarn spinning, particularly in ring spinning, where the role of torsional rigidity becomes very, very important, very crucial. It is important in other spinning techniques also, like in rotor spinning, in air jet spinning, friction spinning. But uh, the migration behavior takes place, migration phenomena takes place in case of ring spinning. That's why the role of torsional rigidity of these fibers that becomes quite important. Now, how will you measure the torsional rigidity of a fiber? One end of the fiber that will remain fixed, and another end of the fiber that will be, you can mount a rod or a cylinder, small rod, to keep the tension or stress in the fiber that at constant level. That should not be too low, and that should not be too high. If it is too low, then what will happen? The fiber will not become straight. If it is too high, fiber will get extended, and you will not get the exact value of your torsional rigidity. So if length is L, it should remain L throughout the experiment. So torsional rigidity that can be expressed by tau 8 pi q into I into L divided by T cube, where I is the moment of inertia around the fiber axis, and T is the period of oscillation, and L is the length of the specimen. So in this way, by measuring the period of oscillation and moment of inertia of any fiber, you can calculate the torsional rigidity. The modulus of rigidity, that is again important parameter, which is now considered by maximum number of yarn manufacturers. Now, what is the concept and what is the theory of this modulus of rigidity? So it can be expressed by G. This is tau divided by S square into small sigma. So where S is the area of cross section, and this, this is epsilon, S square epsilon. Epsilon is safe factor. Safe factor for a circular cross section, this safe factor will remain 1, and for triangular, as the shape will deflect from a circular shape, the value of safe factor that will enhance more than 1. So as you will enhance the safe factor, and safe factor is here coming on denominator, what will happen? If you will enhance this denominator, the value of rigidity will decrease. So by playing with cross-sectional shape, you can reduce the modulus of rigidity of a fibrous material. In this way, we can start the engineering of different textile materials from fiber stage itself. Now, stress relaxation. You know, stress relaxation. Suppose you have stressed a material, then what will happen? As a function of time, the material will release its stress, where ET is stress relaxation, E0 is the instantaneous elastic modulus, and E infinity, that is the long-term elastic modulus, T is time, and tau is the stress relaxation time constant. So this ET equal to E infinity plus E0 minus E infinity exponential of minus small t upon tau. Now you can see these some graphs. What will happen after stress relaxation? When you will apply, allow to get relaxed, the molecular chains, they they will come in relaxed position and small amount of shrinkage lengthwise that may take place. How this relaxation takes place? Stress relaxation takes place due to the relaxation in local position of molecules in a particular space. And stress relaxation is very important in textile material, textile processes at each and every stage. Because if you will not allow for stress relaxation, when this material will get equal amount of energy and it will relax its stress, your dimensional stability will influence. Means suppose you stitched a shirt without stress relaxation, and once you will go for washing and you will dip this shirt in water, all stresses which are present in those yarns and fibers, they will get relaxed as a function of time, and your shirt will lose its dimension, it will shrink significantly. So in this way, these parameters are very important. Means stress relaxation, instantaneous stress elastic modulus, and long-term elastic modulus. Long-term means there will be immediate relaxation, but there will be a relaxation which will perform as a function of time. Means it will take a longer time to get it relaxed. So now here you can see it in a fine diagram, the phenomena of stress relaxation. Suppose you applied a force on a particular fiber or yarn, and then you release the applied load or applied stress. What will happen after, in first part of this figure, you are seeing the stress is increasing, means you are applying the load, extension will take place. After reaching a certain point, you remove that stress. Then what will happen? There will be a relaxation, means elastic behavior, means whatever extensibility which has been introduced in that fiber or yarn, that will go away, means that will diminish. So that change or that relaxation will take place immediately. So that is called expressed by ST. Okay. After that, the curve is becoming flat or the slope is very, very small. It means on time scale, it will take a long time. It will take a very long time. So it is called as the time effect on stress relaxation. Time effect. Time effect is very important in textile materials. Time effect on moisture, time effect on stress relaxation, time effect on tensile behavior of the material. Now, how can you see, how can you judge, how can you feel this behavior, stress relaxation like that? Suppose you have two springs. One spring is hard, another spring is soft. So what will happen when you will hang both the springs without any load? What will happen after 10 days or 20 days or 1 month? The spring which was hard, you will not find any significant change in the length of that spring. But the spring which was soft, you will find that due to the effect of gravity, the soft spring that has enhanced in its length. So this is this you can define that this behavior is called as the creep behavior of these materials. As a function of time, the material enhances its length. That is called as the creep behavior. Or you can say the creep you can again divide instantaneous creep and secondary creep, or primary creep or secondary creep. The instantaneous relaxation, instantaneous change after removing the deforming force, that is the primary creep. And as a function of time, which takes place at very slow rate, very slow rate, that is the secondary creep. Now, apart from textile material, other materials, what is important? What is the role of creep? In our houses, we uses different steel rods, cement, concrete, this bitumen, different type of building materials we use to manufacture a house. Now, suppose you are residing on second floor or third floor or fifth floor. You have a double bed which you kept in a room. What theory says? If you will keep that double bed at a particular place for a very long time, then what will happen? That will deform, that will create a permanent deformation in the structure. So what is advised? You keep on changing. Means you should not fix the place of heavy items in your house when you are living on first, second, third, and other floors at higher floors. You keep on change the different heavy goods, household goods in your houses. So this is the role of creep. Now, what is the role of creep here in textile? We use different type of ropes for cranes, ropes for heavy duty machines. Now, so what happens after the application of 100-hour, 200-hour, or 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, those materials get deformed due to the effect of creep. So those effects are also important to study. Now, what is the role? What is the parameter which is influencing that thing? First one is stress. Second is time effect. That's why it is called as time effect. This time effect is very important for such type of stress relaxation. Now, for example, this is the picture. Your question paper will come in the form of multiple choice question, right? How can you design a question from this figure? There may be one question. Suppose I want to ask a question on secondary creep. Now I will write secondary creep is influenced by first stress relaxation. First option you will find stress relaxation. Second option you will find time. Third option you will find stress and time both. And fourth option you may find none of the above. So your answer should be C, stress and time both. Okay, so in this way you have to be frame your own question, then your sharpness and understanding related to the subject that will enhance. Now this is another important point, heat of absorption. When a textile material absorbs water, heat evolves, and this heat is called as the heat of absorption. There is a very fine difference between absorption and adsorption. You will find word adsorption also somewhere, some places. So you should not get confused. Adsorption is basically the attachment of molecule of the material which is adsorbed by that sample or that material only on its surface. That will not go inside, means that will not go center of that material. If it is fiber, the water will not go up to the center. But in case of absorption, the water molecule will attach on its center, but it will penetrate inside the fiber also. Now, this heat of absorption you can compare with heat of solution also. You know, what will happen when you will mix H2SO4 and water? Very big amount of heat will generate, and that becomes very dangerous also. If you will do like that, then it will become, it may create accident also. So that heat is called as the heat of solution. You know, generally in your houses, when you bring this tuna from market for whitewashing, when you brings the these bricks type or the stones type of this tuna, and when you dip it inside water, a huge amount of heat start to come out.
Yes, sir.
That is again the heat of solution, right? Now here you can see the two way to represent the heat of absorption. One is differential heat of absorption, another integral heat of absorption. First is differential heat of absorption. What is this differential heat of absorption? The amount of heat evolved when 1 gram water is absorbed by an infinite mass of oven dry material at given moisture regain. This is the definition of differential heat of absorption. You have to be very careful. You have to be learn these definitions with understanding. रटना नहीं है. You have to learn it, understand it. The amount of heat evolved when 1 gram water is absorbed by an infinite mass of oven dry material at given moisture again. It is expressed in calories per gram. Why in per gram? Because it is absorbed by a mass of the material. And 1 gram of water is absorbed. Suppose 5 gram water is absorbed and this much of heat is evolved. Then total heat will divided by 5. So that will be calories per gram. This is differential heat of absorption. Correct? It is called as heat of absorption also.
Yes,
The
sir.
water may be absorbed from water vapor. Means in case of differential heat of absorption, you have two different options. Are you getting my voice perfectly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The water may be absorbed from water vapor. It may be absorbed from liquid state. If water is absorbed from vapor state, the amount of heat that will evolve, that will be expressed by QV. If absorption takes place from liquid state, the amount evolved heat that will be expressed as QL. So now you can see with this triangle, in left one, we have mentioned the fiber plus vapor, water vapor. The amount of heat which is QV, and on right end of this triangle, fiber plus absorbed H2O means fiber is absorbing moisture from liquid state of water. So whatever heat will evolve, that will be expressed by QL. Now, what is the relation between extreme left corner to extreme downward corner? Latent heat of water. Latent heat of water. When from vapor state, you will reduce the temperature of that environment, and or you will saturate that environment by moisture. Then what will happen? It will immediately direct convert from vapor to liquid state. So that will depend on latent heat of water condensation. Now difference. So this is clear. QV equal to QL plus L. QV is
Vector addition.
heat which is evolved when material is absorbing water from vapor state. QL is the amount of heat when material is absorbing water from liquid state, and L is the latent heat of water. Now difference integral heat of absorption. This is sometimes called as heat of wetting also. The definition of integral heat of absorption, the amount of heat evolved when 1 gram dry mass of sample is completely wetted at given regain. In both definitions, one thing is clear. I'm again and again saying at given regain, Why? Why this regain is important? Because you remember first slides, means if 65% regain is there, means the amount of water which is present when you calculated the absolute humidity, that is less. As this value will enhance, means the amount of water in the environment, in the surrounding, that will enhance. So relative humidity is always very important to decide either the differential heat of absorption or integral heat of absorption in both cases. So this is also expressed similarly in calories per gram of dry mass. in case of differential heat of absorption, we express as calories gram of water. Now here we mention as calories per gram of dry mass of sample. So denominator in case of differential heat of absorption is gram of water. Here denominator is gram of dry mass of sample. Absorption can be performed only from liquid state. This is the restriction or limitation of integral heat of absorption. Now, this is a theory which is very, very important. This is called as the quantitative theory of moisture absorption. Before come on that, this concept, I want to express this slide. You know, the cotton consists two glucose units in its repeat unit. Two glucose units, they are connected with each other at 180 degree of its configuration. When they are connected at 180 degree configuration or 180 degree rotation, then it becomes cellulose. And when they remains in a syntactic isotactic position, means COH in same plane, CH2OH in same plane in all repeat units, then it form starch or lignin. Just due to the difference in its configuration, you can just imagine the property of both type of materials. One is cellulose, another is starch. Cellulose forms fiber, starch don't form any kind of fiber. This is due to the configuration of molecular chains. So how configuration is important, okay? Now you see on the repeat unit, one smallest part of this cotton fiber, this is the glucose unit. One glucose unit consists 3 hydroxyl group, CH2OH, OH, OH. And all hydroxyl group have a potential to absorb water molecule. So suppose all 3 hydroxyl groups have absorbed water molecule. Okay? Directly, now another concept is that directly attached water molecules and indirectly attached water molecules. Here you can see this one, this gold one. This is directly attached with the hydroxyl group. This is called as directly attached water molecules. But partial ionization or polarization takes place in these type of materials, and a slightly positive charge come here and negative charge will come here. So this hydrogen atom that will attract another water molecule. And similarly, this hydrogen will attract another water molecule. This hydrogen atom will attach another water molecule. But all these water molecules are indirectly attached water molecules. This water molecule is directly attached water molecule. So in case of moisture regain or moisture content, we consider only the directly attached water molecule. But when you dip the material, when you will allow to absorb the water from a water bucket or where the water is present in infinite quantity, then both directly and indirectly attached water molecules becomes important. Okay, now you come here. The calculation of moisture regain of cotton fiber by first principle. You know the molecular weight of this glucose unit, this is 162, and water molecular weight of water is 18. So one glucose unit will attract 3 water molecules. So 18 multiplied by 3, it means 54. That will be the molecular weight of 3 water molecules. Now suppose all 3 hydroxyl groups have attached with the 3 water molecules. So in that case, the moisture that will be attached on that glucose unit, that will be 54 divided by 162 into 100, 33%. But I have already mentioned, whatever moisture or water molecule will attach, that will only possible in case of amorphous region, not in case of crystalline region. So the cotton fiber consists 2/3 part crystalline and 1/3 part amorphous. That's why we multiplied 33.3 by 1 by 3. Now it comes on 11.1. Now again, I have mentioned whatever water molecule will attach on any material, that will depend on moisture regain also. So here, till this point, whatever we discussed, that was on 100% humidity. Now your humidity that remains 67% or something like that. So when you will multiply it by this one, you will get 7.215. So this is in standard condition. You will get the moisture regain of cotton fiber around this. But in reality, in literature or in practical, we find the cotton absorbs moisture slightly more than 8%, 8% or 8.5. Somewhere you will find 8, somewhere you will find 8.5. So that depends on cotton maturity, that depends on the relative humidity, that depends on the directly attached and indirectly attached water molecules, all these things. But when you will calculate by first principle, you will get the cotton will absorb 7.215, or that should remain like that in this range, in between this range.
Sir,
Now you come
previous slide में sir. सर previous slide में जो calculation है सर, third moisture regain की सर 33% का 1/3%. सर ये क्यों निकाला गया सर?
Amorphous region. Cotton consists only 1/3 part amorphous. Okay, so
amorphous तो
moisture
वो होगा ना?
absorption.
सर amorphous तो वो रीजन होगा इसमें 54% वो ग्राम ऑफ वाटर एब्जॉर्ब हुआ है सर.
नहीं,
वो टोटल
वो अभी जो 54 दिखाया, दिस इज ऑन रिपीट यूनिट, ये ग्लूकोज यूनिट है, इसमें तो अभी amorphous उसकी बात ही नहीं आई.
ठीक सर.
Now quantitative theory of moisture absorption. Pierce gave a theory to quantify the directly attached water molecules and indirectly attached water molecules on any fibrous substrate. Let us assume the C is the total number of attached water molecules on any absorption site. Absorption site may be a fiber, yarn, fabric, whatever it is. CA is the number of directly attached water molecules on a absorption site. Now you know that what are directly attached water molecules and what are indirectly attached water molecules. So CV is the number of indirectly attached water molecules on absorption site. So by the principle or by basic definition, C that will be equal to CA plus CB. Now come on this statement. This is quite important. Suppose the total number of water molecule increased on absorption site by DC. Initially it was C. Now I'm saying that it has increased by DC, means a fractional increment is registered there. Then the fraction of molecules directly absorbed on absorption site, that will be directly proportional to the number of unoccupied sites. Are you getting this point? The whatever fractional change in water molecules which are attached on that site directly, that will depend on the unoccupied sites, means which are still left where water molecule is not attached. So that what will be the fraction of that site? That will be, suppose the total site is 1, the directly attached water molecule occupied by site CA, that will be 1 minus CA, because total site is 1. CA is the directly attached water molecules, means which is already occupied. What is remaining? 1 minus CA. So now the equation will frame like DCA divided by DC, that will be directly proportional to 1 minus CA. DCA means directly attached water molecules, which is divided by fractional change in total number of molecules which are attached on that particular site. So that will be directly proportional to 1 minus CA. Now DCA upon DC equal this proportionality sign you can replace by equal sign, and there will be a this proportionality constant Q 1 minus CA. Now you just rearrange this one. Q is the factor of proportionality, and rearranging the equation, it will come like DCA over 1 minus CA equal to Q into DC. Now by integrating this equation, you will get minus log 1 minus CA plus C1 plus QC plus C2. So C1 and C2 are constant of integration. and both are equal. So C1 and C2 are cancelled out. Now your equation will become minus log base E 1 minus Ca equal to QC. You just this minus sign, you can send in opposite direction. So log E equal to 1 minus Ca equal to minus QC. You can replace this log. Now by removing the log, 1 minus C equal to e to the power minus QC. And Pierce assume the value of this Q is equal to 1. So now your equation will become 1 minus Ca equal to e to the power minus C. Now by solving this equation further, Ca will be 1 minus e to the power minus C. What is the main significance of this equation at this point? Ca is the directly attached water molecule. This will depend on 1 minus, 1 is the total side, 1 minus e to the power minus C. C is the total number of water molecules which are attached on that material. So when it will come in the power as exponential power of this C, that will decide the total number of directly attached water molecules. Now by putting the value of Ca from equation number 10 to equation number 1, I didn't put the equation properly, but equation 1 is C equal to Ca plus Cb. So when you will place the value of Ca, this will become C equal to 1 minus e to the power minus C, because 1 minus e to the power minus C, this is the value of Ca plus Cb. So by this equation, you can find out the Cb equal to C minus 1 plus e to the power minus C. So if you know the fractional change in moisture content of the material, and you know the directly attached water molecules, if you don't know the directly attached water molecules, if you know the fractional change in moisture content by changing a slight change in relative humidity, you can calculate the number of indirectly attached water molecules, as well as you can calculate the number of directly attached water molecules. So that was the achievement of Pierce when he did this calculation and this derivation in 1940. So long back, he did a very wonderful job. Now, in equation 11, it is very useful to calculate the number of indirectly attached water molecules on any absorption site if the fractional change in water molecule absorption is given. The attached water molecule will depend on the moisture again of the material, and that is represented by small r. So again, by basic definition, small r equal to mass of the absorbed water divided by mass of the material multiplied by 100. This you can write MWC divided by Y M0 into 100. What is this MW? MW is the molecular weight of water, that is 18. Y is the total mass of material divided by mass on the absorbing side, that is again the content of means amorphous fraction. And M0 is the molecular weight per absorption side. So 1 by 3, again I am saying the amorphous content, molecular weight of glucose unit 162. When you will multiply by 1 by 3, it will come 54. So 54 is the molecular weight which is available for moisture absorption. So now by this calculation, by this formula, I can write this C. This is the moisture absorbed or moisture content of the material, 3 into Y into R divided by 100. Now, what is the role of relative humidity, regain percent, on molecules absorption side, or molecules total number of attached water molecules, or directly attached water molecules, indirectly attached water molecules? So red line that is indicating the total attached water molecules means as you are increasing the regain percent, the total attached water molecules is increasing. This is the interpretation of second y-axis. First y-axis, molecules per absorption side. That is, the number of molecules are also increasing per absorption side. Means number of molecules increasing, it means the total number of directly attached water molecules, they can be up to a limit. But indirectly attached water molecules, they may enhance. So when we are saying the number of molecules per absorption site is increasing, means the number of indirectly attached water molecules are increasing. That's why you are saying in initial stage, this green line, this is not going up steeply. But when the relative humidity is increasing more than 70 or 80%, it is increasing rapidly. It indicates that when the relative humidity is going to close the saturation level, the number of water molecules, the total number of indirectly attached water molecules will enhance. This is the interpretation of this curve. And this this blue line is indicating at low relative humidity, the number of directly attached water molecules will attach on absorption side quickly. So this is one. I want to add another one.
Okay, sir.
Are you getting this screen? Screen is visible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fiber swelling. When any textile fiber that will absorb moisture, a swelling will take place. And this swelling is very important, not only in doing research, but in our daily life also. You can take the example of hose pipes, which are used by these firefighters. Initially, those hose pipes were made by cotton fiber itself. And what happens when a closely woven cotton fabric was used to manufacture those hose pipes? Initially, when water flow through those pipes, a little amount water that comes out, but not too much. But what happens when cotton absorbs water and it gets swelled, then the hose pipe that becomes waterproof. And whatever water that flow, that goes at very rapid rate without very significant leakage from that hose pipes. So after swelling, dimensional changes takes place. Shrinkage comes due to transverse swelling. Transverse swelling means aerial swelling as well as diametric swelling. Swelling influences the fiber processability also. Suppose you spray a high amount of water in mixing, then the processability of that particular lot that will influence in different way. Now you can just imagine on this picture, the orange one fiber, that was the oven dry shape of a fiber. We assume the fiber is completely circular and even in its diameter. So the initial area of cross section is A, length of the fiber is L, and the volume of that fiber is V, and diameter is D. When the fiber is allowed to absorb moisture up to maximum extent, up to saturation level, the fiber swelling takes place, and after swelling, what will happen? The area of cross section that will become A plus delta A, volume will B plus delta V, diameter is D plus delta D, and length is L plus delta L. So the axial swelling that will represent by SA, and that will be basically the fractional change in length divided by original length. So L plus delta L minus L upon L. So that will become delta L upon L. Similarly, transverse diameter swelling SD delta D upon D, and transverse area swelling SD equal to delta into A upon A, and volume swelling that will be delta V upon V. Generally, the fiber swelling is expressed in percentage. So how this percentage will come? This delta L upon L into 100, delta D upon D into 100. When you will multiply this fraction by 100, you will get the swelling in percentage. The relation between various type of swelling reduces the number of variables. This is very important. How can we connect this diametric swelling with the areal swelling? And how areal swelling can be connected with the volume swelling? So when you will connect these type of swelling, means you don't require to measure all these dimensions and all these variables. You can reduce the number of variables. That's why we will try to establish a relationship between these swellings. You know, for a circular cross section, circular cylinder, its volume will be area of cross section into L, A into L, where V is the fiber volume, and A, that will be the fiber cross sectional area. A is not mentioned here, but it should be here. And L is the fiber length. The fractional increment of delta B is considered in volume after fiber swelling. So after swelling, this B will become B plus delta B, and A will become A plus delta A, and L will become L plus delta L. So by multiplying A plus delta A by L plus delta L, it will come here, this one. So SB will become means volumetric swelling B plus delta B minus B upon B. It will be delta B upon B. So how this delta B will come? This will come B plus delta B minus B upon B from this first one. So when you will multiply both these brackets, it will become AL plus A delta L plus L delta A plus delta A delta L. Okay, minus V means minus AL, divided by V means divided by AL. So this AL and AL will cancel out. Now these 1, 2, 3 term will left. A delta L divided by AL, L delta A divided by AL, delta A delta L divided by AL. So now this A and A will cancel out. Here L and L will cancel out. What will come? Delta L upon L, delta A upon A, plus delta A, delta L upon AL. So here this we can write delta A upon A and delta L upon L. So this this equation that can be write SB equal to delta L upon L is SL, delta A upon A is SA, and delta A upon A SL, sorry, SA, and this is SL. So SB means volumetric swelling. Why we did like that? Because you can measure the length of the fiber, you can measure the area of cross section of the fiber. But suppose I say you measure the volume of this fiber, then directly you can't measure it because it is very difficult. So we will not direct calculate the volumetric swelling, but we will calculate the lengthwise swelling, area means axial swelling and aerial swelling. And by using both these swelling, we can calculate the volumetric swelling. If area of cross section is circular, then it can, this aerial swelling can be rewrite 2 into SD plus SD square. So there is an anisotropy in fiber swelling also. Anisotropy, you know, anisotropy. Isotropy means if a material has the property homogeneous, means same property at all places. But in case of textile materials, as the direction change, as the place change, property change. So such type of materials comes under the category of anisotropic material. So this is the swelling anisotropy, which is represented by small k. In some books, you will find that capital K also. So this small k equal to diametric swelling divided by axial swelling, SD upon SL. If the value of k is infinity, means this indicates the molecular chains are perfectly oriented. Perfectly oriented. If, sorry, there's one should be 1. Yes, the second one here, it should be 1. I will correct it and you correct it also. K infinity, it means all molecular chains are perfectly oriented, and K1, that indicates the all molecular charge molecular chains are completely randomly oriented. Now, how will we measure? What is the way to measure these type of swellings? Because again, the measurement of volumetric swelling, axial swelling, radial swelling, that is again very difficult. Now, this is the simplest way. Suppose the fiber mass that is considered 1 gram. We consider 1 gram of fiber mass in dry state, means 1 gram of dry fiber, completely dry, oven dry. Now, by basic definition, density, it is mass upon volume, and you consider mass is 1 gram, 1 upon V, and so volume will be 1 upon density. Suppose the fiber absorbed m gram of water at given regain percent R%. So rho 0 is the density of fiber in dry state, and rho S, this is the density of fiber in swollen state. Okay. So after absorbing m gram water, delta V, this is the volume of fiber. How much fiber volume will enhance? So again, come on basic definition. This V will become V plus delta V. Now, this will become 1 plus m. Initially, the weight of fiber was 1 gram, and it absorbed n gram of water. So 1 plus m, and density will become rho S. Initially, before absorbing water, it was rho 0. Now it has become rho S. So 1 plus m. How much how much moisture will absorb by the fiber? This will depend on its regain. So that you can express R upon 100. So 1 plus R upon 100 divided by rho S. This will be the new volume of fiber after moisture absorption. Now SB equal to V plus delta V upon V, and delta V equal to V plus delta V minus V. So equation 2 is representing the V plus delta, value of V plus delta V, and equation 1 is representing the value of V. So equation 1 subtracted from equation 2. So that you will get the V, and then again divided by equation 1. So V plus delta V, 1 plus R upon 100 upon rho S minus 1 upon rho 0. This is V plus, this is the value of delta V. Now you divide this value by V. V is 1 upon rho or rho 0. So SB equal to delta V upon V, 1 plus R upon 100 upon rho S minus 1 upon rho divided by 1 upon rho 0. So by solving this equation, you will get rho 0 upon rho S, 1 plus R upon 100 minus rho 0 minus rho 0. So rho 0 will cancel out, and this will come SB equal to rho 0 upon rho S, 1 plus R upon 100 minus 1. So this equation indicates that you don't require to measure the dimension of the fibers. You require to measure the density of the fiber. And density you can measure by means of density gradient column. So by measuring the density, you can calculate the volumetric swelling, how much swelling has been registered in that particular fiber. Okay. So whatever I am saying during the my lectures, whatever I am presenting, whatever I am writing here, each and every word is important. Either it is written or it is spoken by me. You will get your questions according to the lectures which are delivered here. But you are PG students. It is supposed to do some your self-study also. You are not in class 5th or class 10. That this was the line which was taught and this was the line which was left. You have to connect some more informations also, and accordingly you will score your marks in your examination. Before your final examination, I have to conduct online test also. So I am planning for that test. Once I will prepare, I will inform you 2 days in advance, or at least 1 day in advance, so you get prepared for that test. But this is my sincere advice to be become very sincere, because still uh, some students are not attending the class regularly. I don't know, and I am not responsible for that. My duty is to complete your course. My duty is to finish uh, the study, and whatever you are studying here, your friends who are in NIT, who are in IIT, they will also reading the similar type of things with similar standard. So you should not be inferior. Means you should not get any inferiority complex in your mind that you are studying in UPTTI, so you are studying some low grade content here. No, that is not like that. And one thing that is again very important, the this static charge problem in textile fibers. You know what is the basic concept behind static charge generation? I already explained the textile materials are bad insulator of electricity, bad insulator. When these type of insulating materials rubs against a surface, what happens? Electron transfer from one surface to another surface. And where the electron accumulates, that becomes negatively charged, and the surface which loses the electron that get positive charge. So in this way, one surface means two surfaces are there. Both surfaces will become, they will have static charge. Now you can measure the static charge. There is no problem, because n number of equipments are there. A static charge that is measured by even this particle size analyzers also. And different fibers has different level of static charge, and that is expressed as zeta potential. Means how much static charge is present on the surface of that fiber, that is called as the zeta potential of that fiber. Now how can you reduce? Because in very few cases this static charge that becomes beneficial. Otherwise, it creates a lot of problem during textile processing of that fiber, yarn, fabric. So all the time, the processors or manufacturers try to reduce the static charge generation. It starts problem from mixing. Means when you will run those that fiber on blow room, if you didn't treat it properly to reduce the static charge or to control the static charge, it creates problem of fiber lapping, because it gets charged. So when the opposite charge surface is found, it attract on that surface and get sticked. So static charge, you can, the basic concept of reducing static charge, you know, uh, the concept. What is the concept of static charge generation? Electron transfer. Once electron transfer is taking place, then static charge will accumulate on a surface. So we have two strategies to reduce the static charge. One is to stop the transfer of electron. Second, if electrons has been transferred, then static charge should propagate. Means it should not remain stable at one place. So how this propagation will take place? That will take place by introducing some moisture in the material, because moisture is the very good conductor of electricity or these electric charges. So when moisture will come, charge will dissipate on large area. So your problem will solve. Second option is to coat the fiber surface by a insulating material. So it will stop the electron transfer from one surface to another surface. And this is performed, this is achieved by applying the spin finishes. We apply the spin finish at during the fiber manufacturing. We apply the spin finish when the yarn spinning starts in yarn industries. When you blend your fiber with other fiber, suppose polyester cotton, you are blending polyester wool or polyester viscose blending is there. All the time, a small amount of spin finish is applied on the fiber surface. And mixing of that spin finish, that becomes very important. If you will evenly distribute that spin finish on fiber surface, you will get very less problem of this static charge generation. But if the distribution or spin finish is not uniform, you will get the problem of static charge, and this static charge generation problem will propagate the roller lapping or sticking of fiber against different surfaces. So ultimately, not only the performance efficiency will go down, the machine breakdown will also enhance too much. Okay, so static charge that is at in the spinning industry. Now at bearing stage, when static charge generation is there, the performance of binding will go down. Performance of warping machine will also go down. Now after sizing, suppose you introduce a small amount of anti-static agent in size paste, then it will help to reduce the static charge generation on bar thread. But in case of BAFT, again, the problem of static charge generation will remain there. But in case of BAFT, you have one advantage, that whatever BAFT length that comes inside the fabric, that comes for a few fraction of second, and then new length will come, new length will come, new length will come. But for a bar, the same length that rubs against the dents of reed and heel shafts. So this is the basics about this static charge generation, and how can we reduce the problem of the static charge generation, and what is the concept of static charge generation. Okay, so
So sometimes